That song jams. How's it going, everybody? We're live.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, let me hit pause before the next song just starts blaring. Boom. Getting better at that one. All right, everybody. Live stream chat. What's happening? I asked all of you a question. All right, we're going to read your answers a little later on. Go check it out. Today's question. Let's get today's show going. Your Ben Joravsky show for Thursday, July 2nd. June flew by the way, guys. Mm-hmm. Holy cow. Your Ben Joravsky show for Thursday, July 2nd is just moments away. But before we do this, let's thank these unions for sponsoring this program. Unions like the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9.
That's correct.
The International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150.
That's correct.
And, of course, today's Ben Joravsky show is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor.
When I was a little girl, I remember singing the song, "This Little Light of Mine, I'm gonna let it shine." We've said it's time to bring in the light, and it's sure shining on all of us tonight. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Thank you very much. God bless you all, and God bless Chicago.
You're welcome. All right, we got a song of the day request.
Uh-oh.
Now, the live streamers are very kind to you. They pick songs that you know.
Oh, ancient songs. Thank you. I appreciate that. Remember the one guy at, what was it, Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs? Or Sam, yeah, man. Wooly bullet, wooly bullet. All right.
I'll never forget when someone asked you to do Bulls on Parade and you turned it into a song about the Chicago Bulls.
By the way, I've since subsequently, whoever requested that, I've looked at the lyrics and they're freaking outstanding.
Yeah.
The lyrics are really good. Man.
I'm going to try once a week to have Ben read lyrics from Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, it's good stuff. The other one was good, too, that you had me read.
All right. Oh, yeah, Down Rodeo. Holy cow.
Yeah,
all right. Jim's request for the song of the day is one by Ray Charles.
Ooh.
Hit the road, Jack.
Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. I play bass too. Oh.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
Steven, your request is tomorrow. The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Thursday, July 2nd, and still live from Ben's attic. This is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, he's a union man and a pension guru. He's IBEW's Jeff Johnson. And now your host. Don't sing that song anymore. Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Kellyanne's Daughter Thursday. And here's why. So last night, while doing my yoga, my wife broke the news. And yes, D, every night I do my yoga. Stretch, stretch.
Do
Anyway,
you do that when you do yoga? Stretch, stretch.
I will now do a backstroke. Oh, God, that feels good. Oh, sorry. Sure to do.
Yeah.
Don't do yoga while doing a show.
Yeah.
Anyway, she broke the news to me. Beep, 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 beep. That's the sound of breaking news.
Oh, and your wife does that when she has news? Beep, 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 beep. What an interesting couple.
And it's about 12:30. We're getting ready to go to bed. Anyway, she broke the news. Kellyanne Conway's daughter is TikToking nasty things about Donald John Trump. She broke that news to me at about 12:30 this morning, folks. At which point I had a choice. Do I act like I know that fact? Or do I come clean and say, what? Fact is, I'm supposed to know absolutely everything, and this is a title I have, a position I have in society, because I know a lot about TIFs, an exceedingly complicated, convoluted topic that nobody else cares about.
Yeah, just on politics and tips. No one's coming to you with, equations or chemistry. Or
No. I'm sorry. This is the reality of my life. People think I know everything about everything, even though I don't know lots and lots and lots of stuff. Ben, what do you think about chemistry and equations? Well, thanks for asking me that question. I know nothing.
What is the square root of 797?
Oh, the 39 steps. The 39 steps is an international organ. Anyway, focus, Ben, focus. So if you know something really complicated, convoluted, that nobody else knows about, they think you know everything. And the reality is I don't know a lot of things, like I knew nothing about Kellyanne Conway's daughter. In fact, until my wife broke me that news, I didn't even know Kellyanne Conway had a daughter. It never occurred to me in a million years that she had a daughter. Now, another confession I must make. I've said this on the show, and I actually think it's beyond me in terms of the issue of how we get our news. As I've said many times, I essentially follow the news in 24-hour cycles when 3 newspapers are delivered to my house every day: the New York Times, the Sun Times, and the Tribune. That's generally how I get my news. And they're always 24 hours behind the time, so I miss a lot of good stuff, which, for instance, Dennis knows about because he's constantly getting updates on his phone. So it's like, Dennis, you were the one who told me about Chaz. Remember that? I didn't know about Chaz.
Yeah.
And then I was calling it Chaz, and I didn't realize it was Chop. Okay.
They changed it on us.
Yeah, they changed it on it. And then yesterday they shut it down, which finally made the New York Times. So if you just rely, I acknowledge this, ladies and gentlemen. I acknowledge this. If you're just an old fogey like me and you're relying on newspapers that come every 24 hours, you're going to be a little behind at times. Yes, it's true. Case in point, me and Kellyanne Conway's daughter.
Shelly-Ann Conway, right? That's her name? Shelly?
No, but that should be her name.
Ah.
Shelly-Ann. Hi, I'm Shelly-Ann. Hey, Shelly-Ann, what's your name now? Anyway, sorry, a song. That's Carrie-Ann. But back to Kellyanne Conway's daughter. Her name is Claudia. She's 15 years old, and she despises Trump, Trump's agenda, and MAGA, which is what Trump calls his followers. He calls them MAGA. She despises them about as much as I do, which is really news, I must confess, because she is Kellyanne Conway's daughter, and as we all know, Kellyanne Conway is, number 1, responsible for electing Donald Trump, and number 2, always defending him. So, by the way, shout out to Ken Davis. Ken Davis was the
Number one.
I love it when you come in late with the number one. We already did the number one thing. Shout out to Ken Davis.
Number two.
You also said two.
Shout out to Kenny D. He was the first person who told me how brilliant in a diabolically evil way Kellyanne Conway was.
And he was the first person in your wheel of impressions. Not a word said, but sounded just like him.
Anyway, young Kenneth Davis was the first person to point out, you got to admit, Ben, she's doing a pretty good job. Anyway, it is big news that Kellyanne Conway's daughter is TikToking out nasty things about Donald Trump. On the other hand, she's only 15 years old, and there's something, I don't know, how do I put this, D? Kind of borderline pervy about a bunch of adults looking at her TikTok page. Is that what do you call it, a TikTok page?
Yeah.
Her TikTok site, or reading, if she tweets, reading what she tweets, or just, there's something weird about it. I'm just saying, D. I could be old school on this, but you know what I'm saying? But then again, on the other hand, and I realize I'm running out of hands here. I got to get a new hand. On the other hand, which is the third hand, some of her stuff is pretty good. Like this one, which I will now read. Hold on. Let me recite this. Drink of water, D. Hold on.
There you go. Oh, and a gargle. Oh, you listeners are lucky today.
Yeah, here we go. This is from Claudia Conway's TikTok page. I don't know if it's TikTok or tweet. Don't quote me on this. It's from her,
We
all right?
never do.
Don't quote me, all right? You know, I heard Ben Joravsky say that Kellyanne Conway's daughter said this on her TikTok page. That would be wrong. It could be the Twitter. Who knows? But this is what she said. Quote, and I'm just going to read this as though I were a newsreader on the station with the butter cow. Here we go. Why do people hate on Trump supporters? Like, can't we just respect everyone's opinions? Psych. Nah. Block me, please.
Did she say psych?
Yes, and I give her credit.
She's 15?
She said psych, and she wrote it S-I-K-E, which I was like, whoa, I gotta admit, that's pretty cool. You know,
I mean, maybe in 1991.
Okay. I don't know.
Psych. I haven't heard psych in a long time.
Psych. So now, ever since then, I've been doing imitations of Kellyanne Conway's daughter, even though I don't really know what she sounds. And it's really just an imitation of the daughter from Schitt's Creek. So it's like, David, which is, as we all know, I just sort of use one imitation for a lot of different things. D, why waste a good imitation? You know what I'm saying?
I get that.
So anyway, I learned about this last night from my wife, who had read it on some Facebook wall of one of her friends. I'm not quite sure what the source was, but that's how I found out about it. And the next day, I eagerly looked through my 3 newspapers, the New York Times, the Sun Times, and the Trib, and there was not one mention of Claudia Conway. All right, D? Not one mention. Now, this, I have to say, I can't believe that the people at the New York Times are not aware of Claudia Conway's existence and the fact that she's TikToking out nasty things about Donald Trump. I gotta figure there must be one millennial on the New York Times editorial staff who's like, I got David. That's just the millennial in there. David. It's really Schitt's Creek.
He loves that show, everybody.
I haven't watched it. I really miss it. I haven't seen it in over a month. So I'm sure they had a discussion about it. And I'm sure they're aware that it's ironic. That's a favorite New York Times NPR term, ironic. It's ironic that the daughter of Kellyanne Conway would be anti-Trump, so it's ironic. So irony is good enough for them to write about it. But I guess they just figured it wasn't worthy of New York Times news status because they didn't put it in the paper. D, by tomorrow's paper, it might be in there. But so I'm sure they discussed it at their editorial board meeting, but they didn't put it in their paper. By the way, on the other hand, I just want everybody to know that we at the Ben Joravsky Show have the equivalent of editorial meetings all the time. The problem is that The problem is we only have two people on the Ben Joravsky show, me and Dennis. Okay, so in order to make it seem like we're having this really great, varied discussion, Dennis has to do different people. So, for instance, we'll have a discussion on should we have a conversation about Kellyanne Conway's daughter, and Dennis will weigh in as J.B. Pritzker, Lori Lightfoot. Bruce Rauner. Joe Rogan.
It's crazy.
Bill Barr.
Oh, I thought you meant the Attorney General, Bill Burr.
Burr, yeah.
Hey, a lunatic.
Marge Simpson.
Oh, put the quarter in the jukebox. Lisa needs braces.
Monroe Anderson.
Happy Monday.
Ed Maher. And today's guest, Jeff Johnson.
Oh.
Anyway. And the guy from King of the Hill. Let's not forget.
That's my best one. That boy ain't right.
Oh, God. I warned Dennis, get ready. He didn't really realize that was coming.
I also do Jay-Z. I figured I could do Jay-Z. I learned that a while ago.
I did not know you do Jay-Z.
Yeah, you want to hear my Jay-Z?
Yeah.
All right. Well, one thing that people in New York do, instead of saying the letter R, they say Ara. I don't know why. Ara.
Yeah.
So here's Jay-Z saying R. I'm going to butcher it now and I'm live, but here we go. Ara. Hova. Ara. Ara.
Now, do Jay-Z discussing whether we should talk about Claudia Conway's TikTok page.
You had no clue this was coming, did you, listeners?
Let me TikTok, Kellyanne. You crazy on that one, Kelly?
That's excellent, man. That's really good stuff. By the way, Jay-Z, anytime you want to be a guest on the show, feel free to give Dennis a call. So anyway, yes, I think it's newsworthy and worthy of discussion that Kellyanne Conway's 15-year-old daughter, Claudia Conway, is ripping Trump. I urge her to continue to rip Trump. I agree with her 100% that Donald John Trump is a travesty and a disgrace. And number one on our list of things to do this year is to vote him out of office. And that's why I say, too bad. Claudia Conway's
number one.
Too bad Claudia Conway's only 15. Because we need every vote we can get in November. We've got a great show today, everybody. Jeff J.J. Johnson will be in the studio.
If he's not pissed that I just did an impression of him.
Come on, do it again. Jeff Johnson will be in here. We'll be talking pensions. He thinks he's ducking and dodging this. I'm going to ask him, should the city of Chicago release the full report on Eddie Johnson? Yes. I'm going to ask him that. That's on my mind. The things I get obsessed with, D. Anyway, plenty of conversation. A lot of pension talk with Jeff Johnson. But before we do that, the young man from Alton. The man back home that they call, what do they call him these days? D Nice with the news.
Hey, guys. It's just Dennis, actually. Hey, what do you say we find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon, huh?
Sounds good to me.
By the way, we're now in the month of July, which means that the year 2020 is halfway over. I think I can speak for all of us when I say hallelujah. Now, our editor, Leah, has went and asked all of you this question on social media. I mean, maybe she has. I haven't checked, but I'm assuming she has. If not, she will eventually. And Ben Joravsky, I will ask you this question as well.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
If you could describe the first half of the year 2020 in one word, what would it be and why?
You're asking me now?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm not allowed to say the word because you don't let me swear, but I'll just say it begins with an F and awful. Just awful. That's this year is just okay. But you know what, D? Let me just look on the bright side. I feel as though our country is finally coming to terms with issues that have been around for hundreds of years, which, and I'm just going to say in terms of my life, I'm old, but I'm not hundreds of years old, but these are issues that have been around my whole life. And suddenly it's like a light went on. I don't know how long the light will stay on, but it is good that we are discussing this. The great Adolfo Mondragon told me this, D, back in 2016, Adolfo, after Trump was elected, he said, you know, Benny, this could be a good thing for, I could not see how it could be a good thing, you know what I'm saying? But he said it could be a good thing for America. We might actually have some legitimate resistance going on. Adolfo was very wise young man, and he predicted that. So, of course, if Donald John Trump is reelected in November, 2021 could be even worse than 2020, D. So
I'm going glass half full with my word to describe the first half of 2020.
And that word is?
Humbled. I've been humbled by all this. Like, well, I'm kind of really appreciating the small things that I really maybe didn't appreciate. How about that, huh?
That is. By the way, can I just say this about D? This is the only guy in America that has come out of the quarantine looking better than he did when he went into the quarantine. This guy looks like a freaking studlet.
Oh, stop. Stop.
Okay. But he does. The other day I saw him, he was doing push-ups in the middle of the show. I turned around, he's like,
That's what I do, yeah.
So anyway,
Quick
yeah.
10.
Oh, was that was all? Quick 10?
Yeah.
But yeah, humbled is a great word. It is very humbling. That is actually a very, it's an outstanding word because just something like the fact that we don't have sports. You know what I'm saying? We just expect it.
Yeah.
Like we always turn on the TV and there's sports and these superstars making gazillions. All of a sudden we don't have it. It's just like, huh? What? That's gone. I mean, that's just one little thing, you know? And just everything shuts down. Everything we took for granted is gone. Movies, restaurants. So you're right. It is a very humbling. But I don't think Americans are acting very humbled these days. You know what I mean? Americans can only be humble for like a month. Like, all right, tired of the humble act. I'm going to Wisconsin to a bar. I'm going to spew germs on other people. And now Chicago's just like Wisconsin. Everybody's going to bars. Enough of the humble act. So, yeah, humble's a great word, but humility is something, it's not something that Chicagoans do well, D. You know what? Americans. I'm not, stop picking on Chicago.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
That is damn near all of our listeners, so that'd be great if you did that.
No, I know it would be good. A lot of our listeners are from Chicago. Although we have quite a few from Kentucky. Who knew? I'm going to do it like the butter cow guy. Kentucky!
You love the butter cow clip.
In 1922.
All right, hold on. Wait for it, everybody. So yeah, Ben's word to describe 2020, the first half, is the F word. Mine's humbled.
It's the butter cow, which has 9 hearts to represent the 9 essential nutrients in milk. That's right, it's made entirely out of butter, and it's a state tradition since at least 1922.
19...
Guarantee we're the only show with that clip.
Oh, man, I'm just... Because I didn't go to radio school, man. I should have gone to radio school.
No, you shouldn't.
My career would be, D. I'd still be on AM radio.
Oh, you would have kicked my ass to the curb.
Oh, we're going to do a post right now.
Live stream chat. What say you? What's your word to describe the first half of 2020? One word and why. We're going to read that at the end of the segment. All right, local news.
All right,
let's do
get
this.
down to it.
Come on. No public event scheduled for our Illinois governor. Hey, JB, you got a little free time? I don't know. How about a quick update on how we're all doing in your 5-phase strategy to restore Illinois? We all know we're in phase 4. Starting to feel like we may have done that a little prematurely.
Yeah, let's go back to 3, all right?
Governor Pritzker, please impart some wisdom.
Let's begin with phase 1.
Not cool, JB. Not cool at all. Phase 1. Hey, we do have an update, though, on Governor Pritzker's newest arch nemesis and no one's favorite Illinois Republican. He may be mine, though. He does make my job a lot easier. Around here, we call him DB, and no, that does not stand for douchebag. It stands for Darren Bailey.
That's correct.
DB.
He's the downstate representative who since day one has defied Governor Pritzker's stay-at-home order. In fact, he's currently in court with the governor over the matter. And boy, is the following story rich. Speaking of, shout out to Capital Facts' Rich Miller for bringing this to my attention. Check out Capital Facts, guys. That's facts like a fax machine for the latest in Illinois news. And boy, this is right in the Benny J. Show's lane here. So the last we heard from Darren Bailey, it was last week, when he channeled his inner Benny J and published an op-ed piece. Ben, I can't recall offhand. What were your thoughts on that op-ed? You loved it, no?
Yeah. First of all, I didn't believe he wrote it, and secondly, I had doubts as to whether he even read it. So that was my general opinion. That's my general opinion. Anytime any elected official ever has an op-ed piece published,
Well, okay, well, you called him out for not writing it, but what were your thoughts on what was written?
I can't remember.
Oh, boy, he loved it. That was real good writing there, DB.
Yeah, the brilliance of the eloquence of the word, the phraseology, the insightfulness of the metaphors that you choose to illustrate and illuminate your points. It was like Murakami. I was up all night reading it once, then I read it again, and a third time. DB.
All I can remember in the op-ed was a question: who's going to feed them hogs? Shout out to
who's going to cash his federal checks that he gets for not feeding the hogs?
Shout out to Fred on the live stream chat. No, a DB doesn't stand for dumb bastard either.
No, come on, he's DB. Could be anything, though. We should do a contest. The best DB, what does it stand for, wins the Blue Mustang. How about that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're just still back at the studio. Don't you have a feeling like that people go into our studio and play around with the little stuff we have? Like
I have a feeling that everybody who's at the Sun-Times and maybe in the studio, in the newsroom, goes in that studio and just cries and misses us.
That's, I'm sure that's happening around. Oh, where are they? Got my beloved City Club certificate is still there, D.
I'll go get it if you want me to.
Oh, God.
I'm actually going to go check it out just to see how it is. I want to record some stuff in
Make
there.
sure you have a mask on, okay?
Absolutely.
I don't trust that little room.
Yeah.
And, because there's no windows, it's small, so be careful.
Yeah, I need to record stuff, stuff that doesn't have the brown line in the background and an air conditioner.
Yeah, a lot to be said for that. By the way, PC is really serious about taking the show into his backyard.
You mean Tuesday's guest, Peter Cunningham?
Yes, that one. It was a great interview, but I must admit, Peter Cunningham and I talked about it. The sound quality is not that great. Yes, Eric Zorn, you're right. The sound quality is not that great. And he goes, Ben, why don't we do the next one in my backyard? That's not actually a bad idea, all right? We got to figure that out, how we could do that. Do the show in the backyard.
A backyard show. That'd be awesome. All right, so that was last week, all right? He wrote that op-ed. Oh, he laughed. It was good times. Now to this week, all right? Because we learned today that Darren Bailey has been on vacation.
Oh, yeah.
And he has cut his vacation short to return to Clay County Court. Now, before the pandemic and before the entire country went to hell, this would be no big deal. But we got to pump the brakes here, all right? Because Darren Bailey has just returned from Florida.
That's correct.
Which at the moment, bit of a hotbed for the coronavirus. And to make things worse, Bailey's spokesman, Jose Durbin, says that he will not get tested for COVID-19.
Wait,
and this is on the advice of his doctor.
Yeah. First of all, DB's spokesman is named Durbin, like the state.
Jose Durbin.
Okay, did not know that. All right, doesn't matter. That threw me. Durbin, same name. All right, look, that is hilarious. Like, on the advice of his doctor, he's not getting tested.
By the way, I looked up the information. His doctor, Alex Jones.
Doctor,
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the documents. Darren Bailey's fine. He is not sick. No one's sick. You're going to be fine.
No, but
it's a hoax.
There's two ways you could take that. On the advice of his doctor, it could be that the doctor said testing is bad for your health, so don't. You know what I mean? Like, that's the suggestion. Like, on the advice of my doctor, I'm not going to go jogging in the 100-degree heat. You know what I'm saying? That's generally the advice that the doctor gives. Now, my guess is, and it's always dangerous when you're guessing about what DB is really up to, that the doctor said there was no need to. You get what I'm saying? There was no need to test yourself because you don't care if you infect everybody. By the way, you're right. What doctor? You just came from Florida. Every freaking person's got COVID down there. Okay, it's an exaggeration. What doctor in his right mind or her right mind is going to go, nope, on my advice?
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the documents. Darren Bailey's fine. He's going to be just fine, Pritzner.
Let's think of doctors other than Alex Jones that would fit that. You know what I mean? That would make that advice.
That
Let's see.
Kevorkian guy?
Yeah, Dr. Kevorkian. No, the Dr. Nick.
Oh.
Dr. Nick in The Simpsons. Remember Dr. Nick, D? He was
Hi, everybody.
Hello, Dr. Nick.
Dr. Kevorkian's pretty good, too. His doctor, Dr. Kevorkian, has advised him, no need to take a test. Again, I just want a clarification, DB. Did the doctor advise you that it was not in your best interest to take the test, or did the doctor advise you that there was no need to take the test?
We got a little more here. Bailey
Did
spokesman.
your doctor graduate from
Big
8th
Lots?
grade?
Yeah, I got my doctor's degree. Big Lots University. Learned a lot. A big lot.
I think the doctor got his degree in radio school. You know, he's a doctor of radio schoolology.
Oh, like me.
Yeah, I would get my medical advice from you any day. All right, D, should I take the test? No need to. Okay, thank you.
All right, this Jose Durbin says more, all right?
All right.
He explained that Bailey has no symptoms and stayed in Florida less than 48 hours. Bailey's attorney, Tom DeVore, says he won't get tested either.
Oh, there we go.
He says, quote, I'm feeling fine and don't see a need for a test.
Oh my God, these are the greatest minds, folks. I just want to point this out. These are the smartest minds in the Republican Party. Darren Bailey is the face of the Republican Party. He's the vision of the Republican Party. He's the future of the Republican Party. He's the man. He's the guy Republicans turn to when they want any kind of advice on anything, including medical advice now. So, you know, forget that asymptomatic means you're carrying the virus, but you're not feeling, you know, any of the symptoms. Okay, so you could feel good and still be carrying the virus and give it to everybody in Clay County. Forget that for a moment. His doctor said, on the advice of his doctor, he's not taking the test, and his lawyer weighs in. Does he go to his doctor for legal advice, or you know what I mean? What a great lawyer! He gives legal advice, and I never turned to Jim Coogan for medical advice. Jim, I got this backache. What, you know?
Well, I guess I'm taking requests for impressions today, guys. I got to do Jim Coogan. Ben, your back's fine. Don't worry about it. I got a request for Madigan, too, so I'll do that a little later as well.
Oh, yeah, you're Madigan? Well, I haven't heard the Madigan.
Yes, you have. Remember how his thoughts on Zoom?
Oh, yeah.
Zoom? What's that? Zoom? Zoom your ass out of my face.
Madigan, don't interrupt him. He's eating an apple. Go ahead, dude.
He loves apples.
He loves it. No, but I'm just sorry. So he's getting medical advice from his lawyer as well as his doctor, and he's probably getting legal advice from his Dr. Vinnie Boom Bots. I mean, I have no idea. Dr. Vinnie Boom Bots. That's a Rodney Dangerfield character.
Oh, shout out to Lucille on the live stream chat. She says, and she says Florida, but she spells it Florida.
No, Florida is, we do have some listeners in Florida, D. So I should hesitate before I rip.
I think people in Florida get it too. If you're listening to this show in Florida, you get it.
God, yes, that is true. Florida, you elected some of the dumbest. And by the way, the speakers at Palm Beach, I urge everyone, when you're not listening to this show, just track down some of the speakers addressing the issues of whether they should wear a mask and their reasons for why they're not going to wear a mask. And just think about this. As batshit crazy as they are, their vote counts every bit as much as yours does. So that's the state of Florida. Oh my God, please do not have this election come down to the state of Florida. And D.
Who, me?
Yeah, I know, as opposed to DB. Isn't it just so perfect? It's so perfect. Oh God, David, isn't it so perfect that DB, Darren Bailey, went to Florida for his vacation? Oh, I'm going to Florida. Where else would you go?
He calls it Florida, F-L-A-R-D-A. Going to Florida.
Yeah, Florida. Yeah. No, don't worry. The whole state's got COVID, but I didn't get it.
Darren Bailey, you're a moron. All right, so no other state news is going to top that story. So let's just move on to the city of Chicago. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Madam Secretary, you talk a lot about the mothers of your friends. Were you went to their houses and you knew that they were going to be kind and generous and supportive of you. So that theme of women being present and how they make a difference, talk a little bit about that and how that, again, animated some of the selections that you made of people in the book.
That's a great question, Mayor, because I wanted to include.
That's enough.
That's a great. The other question was just a good question. This is a great question. Usually, Dee plays the one where you good question, Mayor.
Figured I'd switch it up. Play that other
No,
clip.
it's a great question. Oh, hard-hitting question. Lori Lightfoot, really throws those hard balls at Hillary. Hillary, how did you get to be so intelligent? Great question, Mayor. Okay, all right.
Today, the mayor is at Ogden Park. She's actually there as we speak to announce public safety efforts over the July 4th weekend. Ben, give us your thoughts, memories. Ogden Park. What comes to your brain when you think of Ogden Park?
I'm like getting confused as to where Ogden Park is. I think it's all the reefer I smoke.
Boy, we should have pre-show prepped that one, huh?
Yeah, I'm all mixed up. Where is Ogden Park?
Looking it up right now.
Oh,
Live stream chat. Help us out. Hey, I haven't lived here that long. You're the guy who knows.
I've lived here since 1981, and I'm all mixed up where Ogden Park is. I know I've been to Ogden Park. I just can't remember where it is. But anyway, I digress. What did she?
Says here, Ogden Park was a recreational facility on the near north side of Chicago around the 1860s and 1870s. It was home to the Ogden Skating Club. It was on a piece of land east of where Ontario Street teed into Michigan Avenue. Today's Ontario Street continues several blocks eastward through that site of the old park. Thanks, Wikipedia.
Thank you. You have said that. I can't even get the words out. Hearing you say that, I still don't know where Ogden Park is, but it's good enough. Let's move on.
Shout out to Lucille. She says near north side.
That's good enough. Thank you,
Lori's
Lucille.
talking to her people today. All right.
They love her on the north side. No matter what she does, no matter what she says, they love her even more. And they love, in particular, Dee, those scintillating interviews she does with Hillary Clinton. Okay, those are huge on the north side. Can I hear that again? Okay.
Oh, you want to hear this again?
Madam Secretary, you talk a lot about the mothers of your friends, where you went to their houses and you knew that they were going to be kind and generous. And
watch out, Joravsky. You got competition on the interview in there, pal.
Yeah, she'll have a podcast. She'll get more hits than I will. Although today, 500,000. 500,000.
The Ben Joravsky Show now with over 500,000 downloads.
That's correct.
Ding, ding.
What's that mean?
Is
that a download? Is that what a download sounds like?
Yes. Ding.
I never knew. You're learning so much today, listeners. Yes, Brianna, Lori Lakefront. Okay. So while she's at Ogden Park, let's discuss some citywide issues. It's back. The boot.
Oh, my God.
The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and the one and only Fran the Woman Spielman. The headline reads, Ticketing and Booting, Reprieve Ending for Chicago Motorists. Now, for those who may be new to this, you know what the boot is. I was going to say for those who may not be new to the city, Ben, explain what the boot is. You know what the boot is, the giant yellow thing they put on your wheel. The question we want to know, has Ben Joravsky ever gotten the boot?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, do you mind telling us the story?
Yeah, it's not that interesting, but I actually thought it was a scam and a shakedown. Well, most things in the city of Chicago are scams and shakedown. I was at the bagel restaurant, and the person at the bagel, they had this deal. They cut this deal with the city. I don't know how they did it, but whatever. That when I came out of the bagel, the boot was on my car, and I was like, "What the hell? I was in the bagel," and the guy didn't believe me. He didn't believe me. I was in the bagel. Okay, it was the bagel. So I had to show him my receipt, and he took the, okay. So they, you know what I mean? They thought I was like sneaking into the bagel part. So that's the only time I ever got the boot.
Oh, thank God you kept that receipt.
I know. Well, yeah, where would I be without it? Like $100, $100, I'll take the boot off. I did a lot of booting stories, by the way, just so you know. When was that? Late 90s, early O's? I was really into writing stories about the boot.
Check out those boot stories at Chicago Reader. Look up Joravsky, Chicago Reader, boot. You won't get that bagel story. You'll get stories that he wrote.
No, there was Mark Thomas, dear friend Mark Thomas, ran the alley. He was a big believer in booting, okay? And we would get all these long philosophical discussions about booting, how you need booting to protect the interests of the small business owner. So Mark Thomas and I, fierce debates about booting. That was the early O's, D.
I have a friend who removed the boot twice. It's insane. He sawed it off. No, I'm not kidding. He sawed the damn thing off.
How do you saw off a boot?
I don't know. Talk to Van Rod. And he moved away from the city. He's like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah, because
They keep booting me.
No, the inner libertarian in me just despised the boot, you know, and then the attitude. Oh, they were messing around for a while. There was this one shopping mall, I think around North Avenue in Clyburn. They were not like different sections. This is what was really confusing. Different sections of the shopping mall parking lot were dedicated to different businesses. So if it was really crowded in section A, let's say, and you went into section B and then walked into the wrong store, there would be somebody watching you, seeing where you went, and then boom, went in the wrong store, boom. People are like, what the hell, man? It'd be always arguments. I always got nervous too because, this is Chicago. You never know when the guy pull a gun, you know what I'm saying, over a boot argument. So there has to be a more efficient way to, squeeze people. But they're bringing back the boot.
They're bringing it back, and I'm over here praying to God they don't put boots on bikes. I'm screwed then. All right, no, the story continues here. By the way, people are wondering, dude, you knew a guy who sawed off the boot twice? Who are you hanging out with? Dennis, are you shady or what? Yeah, a little bit.
Do your imitation of the guy.
Van Rod?
Yeah.
Oh, Dennis, I got to get out of here. They put the boot on me. They just keep putting the boot on me. I got to go.
You make him sound like he's from Wisconsin.
Yeah, he was a Northern Illinois man, so he's a little there. Yeah. Oh, Dennis. Sorry, Van Rod, if you're listening. Probably not. All right, the story continues. On Wednesday, ticketing enforcement resumed for illegal parking on street sweeping routes. Monday, booting makes a comeback. And on July 16th, the city resumes ticketing for expired city stickers and residential parking permits. Yes, back to normal, guys. The temporary reprieve is over for Chicago motorists. Ticketing and booting are making an unwelcome comeback. It says here on March 18th, Mayor Lori Lightfoot announced Chicago would stop ticketing, booting, and towing illegally parked vehicles except for public safety reasons through April 30th to give some measure of relief to residents whose jobs and paychecks have been impacted by the coronavirus. I guess they think that everyone's back to normal.
I was gonna say, duh. Mayor Lightfoot, have you been following the news out of Florida? Hello.
Yeah.
You're in DB country here.
Right. Phase 5 doesn't happen until there's a vaccine, so we're still kind of screwed, right?
Unemployment is really high.
So yesterday we talked about the people who are getting evicted and losing their apartments. Like I said, from stay home, save lives to move out, who cares?
Yeah.
And today we got this story. All right. So it says here, Fran continues, at the time, the mayor reserved the right to extend the go easy period. She did just that several times, even after residential street sweeping resumed with no parking signs, but minus the ticketing and towing hammer. There was a no parking meter holiday. Motorists still required to feed meter boxes. Some complained about being ticketed when they didn't, but City Hall made no attempt to collect overdue debt and no interest accumulated on existing payment plans. The ultimate penalty of booting vehicles was suspended. I'm done reading the story. Ben, your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are that the city of Chicago should really reconsider its whole booting thing. I've always thought, and by the way, this just makes me miss the great Judge Eugene Pincham, may he rest in peace. An activist in this city, great lawyer, great criminal defense lawyer. He was passionate, D, about the issue, the way the city ticketed cars, the way the city applied the boot. When I talk about all the stories I wrote, I'm not kidding. I did a lot of stories back in the day about booting and ticketing, and Eugene Pincham featured prominently in several of them because he was always saying, well, he was pointing out that the boots and the tickets hit hardest at the poorest communities that could least afford it on the south and west side. He made this point so many times, and it was true. It was borne out by when the city would release the ward by ward breakdown of where the tickets and the boots were applied. I don't know if it's still that case. I haven't seen any breakdowns ward by ward in years, but Eugene Pincham would make this point. And yes, the city of Chicago, this gets back to one of my favorite themes. And we don't talk about it that much because we're in the middle of a pandemic. We've kind of lost sight about the whole issue of financing and how we pay for our obligations. But by and large, the city of Chicago, like the state of Illinois, like the country of the United States, is really afraid to go too hard, too strong with progressive taxation. They want to leave wealthy people alone, in part because the wealthy people feed their campaign. So we got you covered, all right, D? And so in absence of a fair and progressive form of taxation, they resort to things like sucking and squeezing them dry. If you 5 minutes late on that parking meter, we got the boot. And then the mayors, they act, oh my God, they act like they're so holy, righteous about it. You knew the law applied. You knew you only had to feed them. Remember Mayor Rahm, when he would be late, they go through red lights all the time. I don't know if this was a big story back in the Mayor Rahm years. His motorcade would go through the red lights. They had speed cameras everywhere, right? Remember the speed cameras, the red light cameras and everything? Well, that's to protect pedestrians because cars are going through stop signs. And this is why we're doing it. We're doing it for public safety.
Is that your Rahm impression?
No, that's my Dudley Do-Right.
Oh, okay.
The spokesperson for the city. Dudley Do-Right. Ben, this is to protect people. Oh, okay. It's to protect the bottom line of the government. Now I'm doing my Alex Jones. The government's coming to take your car, ladies and gentlemen.
Globalist.
No, man, but it's enough to turn anybody into Alex Jones, okay? It's sucking you dry because they don't have the guts to go after the wealthiest people. I would just like once to see a mayor, Richard M. Daley, Rahm Emanuel, Lori Lightfoot, come up with a progressive form of taxation so we don't have to squeeze people with fines and fees. So yeah, I remember, so going back to Rahm, we had all these cameras out there. Oh yeah, we're protecting the people, pretending as though they're not just squeezing motorists in the city of Chicago, and also taking care of whoever was paying for,
Take a chill pill, man.
Yeah, sorry. Rahm. Okay, yeah.
Rahm.
Rahm, just hearing your voice. Hold on, let me have a hit. Oh, yeah. So, Rahm, you should take the chill pill because it was your car flying through the red lights, and they discovered that. Do you remember that? And it was like Mayor Rahm's. What was your response, Mayor Rahm? Rules for thee, not for me.
No, his response is, what are you talking about? I ride a bike.
I just biked around Lake Michigan.
How many miles was it, Mayor Rahm?
How many miles?
Nearly 1,000 miles.
Did you meet anybody to talk about health care? No, nobody cares about health care, Ben. Okay. So anyway, yeah, they're just, basically, if they could, they would just take you up by your legs, turn you upside down, and just shake you out until all the quarters and nickels and dimes came out of your pockets and throw you away. That's your city, ladies and gentlemen. We're not gonna, and then they'll take money from Kenny Griffin. Oh, now you got me on a roll, D.
Let's
got
go.
me on a roll. Kenny
Yeah.
G, the richest man in the state of Illinois. Every now and then, he digs into his wallet and takes out $1 million or so because he's got like $1 million in his wallet. Here you go, city of Chicago. And at which point they hold a press conference and all the mayors go, "Thank you, Kenny G. Thank you, Kenny G." And then he's like, giving way more amount of money to Republican politicians to destroy any progressive taxation plan we have in the state of Illinois, just to kill it. But thank you for sort of funding our internet program, which will not be operating for 4 years. Good luck, kiddies, without the internet for 4 years. Meanwhile, we're gonna shake you down. We're gonna put that boot on your car. That's your government, people. I did vote for Lori Lightfoot. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I can't say that.
Whoa.
Where's Jay Marie? She always gives me grief when I admit
Oh,
it.
she's on the live stream chat. Jay Marie, wait, give it to Ben.
Jay
huh?
Marie, you're right. Okay, you're right. All right.
By the way, I heard King Griffin actually has $1 billion in his wallet.
Yes, that's billion with a B.
Oh, yeah. We won't tax Kenny G, but we will put the boot on your car. Squeeze you like an accordion.
Oh, I love your accordion impression.
I miss you, Judge Pincham, Eugene Pincham, one of the great defense lawyers in the city of Chicago. I voted for him for mayor. I think he ran in 1995. 1995! I think that's when Eugene Pincham ran.
Eugene Pincham. That'd be a great last name for someone who likes to take your money. Pinch him and squeeze him. All right, let's move on here. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times. Ben wanted to riff on this story, and this story comes from, once again, you bet your ass, Fran Spielman. The headline reads, "Report on drinking and driving incident that got Eddie Johnson fired to remain under wraps." Let's see here. Fran Spielman writes, despite media demands to make it public, Inspector General Joe Ferguson's final report on the October 17th drinking and driving incident that got former CPD Superintendent Eddie Johnson fired will remain under wraps, a defiant Mayor Lori Lightfoot said Wednesday. Lightfoot said that the ordinance she pushed through the city council in September empowers Chicago's Corruption Council to release Ferguson's reports only when they involve, quote, sustained findings regarding conduct that either is associated with a death or may be a felony as defined in the Illinois Criminal Code and is of a compelling public interest. The mayor acknowledged Johnson's actions absolutely measure up on the, quote, compelling public interest front, but neither he nor the responding officers who allowed the superintendent to drive home without administering a sobriety test committed a felony. Therefore, Ferguson's report will remain secret. Don't tell anybody. It will not be released no matter how loud or how often the media whines. Wait, is she talking about us?
Is that the direct quote?
Yeah.
Or is that just Fran writing the whining?
Oh, I think that was Fran.
Yeah,
Let's see.
Fran.
The quote is, the law does not, and I'm not doing the Lightfoot impression, guys. The law does not allow us to do that. I know there's been a lot of chatter among the media and that Ben Joravsky jerk. I know there's been a lot of chatter among the media that is anxious to dive into the reports. But look at what the statute says, the mayor says.
Okay. Oh, well, what the statute says.
Lightfoot said she has looked at the ordinance, quote, 20 ways from Sunday. Not 19, not 21, 20. And the law is clear. She and the attorneys around her, quote, value our law licenses, and we're gonna follow the law.
God.
She continues saying, quote, we put out what we can put out. We'll put out some additional materials, but there's nothing under the law that allows us to put out the reports of the Inspector General, the mayor said. She continues. We'll do one more quote here.
These are great. I love these quotes.
Oh, we'll keep going.
But I want to hear you do your Lori Lightfoot imitation.
Okay, I want to keep doing a show.
Okay, all right.
Straight white guy. I can't do it in front. Okay. Quote, I know that makes people unhappy. I know there are going to be people who write articles saying, quote, oh, the mayor is being secretive. Doesn't matter. We're going to follow the law. Why not change the ordinance to allow for release of the long-awaited report? She continues, saying, quote, we are not going to cut and paste what our law is because the media is unhappy. We're going to do the right thing to make sure that we are transparent with the public, and the media is going to live with those boundaries. Oh, I got another quote here. Hey, Ben Joravsky, my interview with Hillary Clinton wasn't that bad. Leave me alone.
Good question, Mayor. Good question. Hillary, Madam Secretary, how did you get to be so brilliant? Good question, Madam Mayor. Good question.
Ben, your thoughts?
Well, where do I begin? First of all, it's so kind of like
Ken Davis?
It's we got to bring Kenny D on and get his thoughts on this because it's really. I find it interesting that the mayor would get all lawyer-like. You know when people start lawyering up? Well, the law says specifically, like they had a meeting and they had all the greatest legal minds in the city of Chicago were gathered in that room. Hey, let's examine the law. Solomon, Socrates, all these, they went back to the past through a magical Zoom thing. Abraham Lincoln was in that room. Let me look at it.
It involved Zoom. Mike Madigan was nowhere to be found.
Oliver Wendell Holmes was in that room. Justice Warren was in that room, all right? William Douglas was in, all the great lawyers of legal. Thurgood Marshall was in that room. All the great lawyers were in the room studying, pondering the intricacies of the city law because they really wanted to do the right thing and release the report that was prepared for by city employees with your tax dollars, people, addressing an issue that was front page news. When Mayor Lori Lightfoot said, Eddie Johnson has lied to me and must be fired immediately. That's where it all began, right? So a report is done. All right, we got to know. You fired the police chief. You humiliated the police chief. You made a big deal about it. You got a report. Why? The law is very specific on this point. We cannot release the report. You can do whatever you want. That's like Mayor Rahm. I'm not, okay, well, let me just back up before I say what I'm about to say. I am not equating in any way what was on the Laquan McDonald video to what's on the Eddie Johnson video. I am not equating. I'm just saying the principle of sitting on information that the public should have, okay? It's the same situation where an all-powerful mayor is saying, we're not going to show you this stuff because we don't think we have to. So I suppose if someone goes to court and gets a Cook County judge, to force Lori Lightfoot to turn over Joe Ferguson's report, we'll see what's in it. But, I frankly don't understand why she just doesn't turn over the report right now. What is in the freaking report? That you can't let us see what's in the report. You already humiliated the guy. You already made all these innuendos about him, threw him out of office. I've always felt that Eddie Johnson got a bum deal in the city of Chicago. I've had this conversation with Peter Cunningham. I've had this conversation with activists, Black Lives Matter activists, people who are very critical of Eddie Johnson, and I've heard the anti-Eddie Johnson arguments. I hear where you're coming from, but I live in the real world of the city of Chicago, and in the real world of the city of Chicago, he came into office at a very tenuous time, to put it mildly, in the relationships between the mayor's office, the police department, and the black community. And I think by and large, he did a very good job trying to deal with all the conflicting pressures that he, as the superintendent of police, had to deal with. And so when he became disposable, you just cook up some reason to fire him, humiliate him, put the stuff out in the papers, throw him out of office, bring in a new guy, and now you're already humiliating that guy? They always blame the superintendent.
I gotta say, Mr. Johnson, maybe, I don't know, maybe they did you a favor, dude. Turns out this is the worst job ever.
Yeah, so, there's that. Eddie Johnson could be sitting back, kicking and having a pina colada right now and just going, I don't care. So it's like, you went through the trouble of having the report. Why do we have an inspector general on the public payroll doing reports if the public can't see the reports? Why are we having secret inspector general reports? It's small. Listen, Chicago is relatively small in relation to the United States government, okay? It's so I get the feeling, I like to feel like I have more control over what happens in the city as a citizen than I do with the federal government. But I guarantee you, all the lakefront Lori Lightfoot supporters, would be outraged if Donald John Trump and the Trump administration buried a report about something that his administration was up to. I'm just saying, in general, transparency is healthier than keeping things buried. So and just the way she got mad at Fran, you could do what you want, you can whine, you can file your FOIAs, you're not getting it. And by the way, D, you don't see this because you don't get the newspaper, but I get the daily newspaper, huh?
Oh, I'm so jealous.
As I mentioned earlier in the day, I get a daily newspaper, but it's next to each other on the same page. Reported incident that got Johnson fired to stay secret, so shut up, reporters. You're not getting it. Right next to temporary reprieve on ticketing, booting, ending. Shut up, motorists, and pay your fines. Oh, man. I need a drink of water, D. Hold on one second.
Just don't pull a Johnson and drink liquor.
I'm not much of a drinker. Everybody knows that. So I don't know. I guess partly I'm motivated by the fact that I feel that Eddie Johnson got a bum deal. I think that's part of the reason. But there's just, I always, part of me is curious. Curious George, always want to know what's going on. And, I've lived in Chicago for a long time. I know how things are done. People whisper about other people. Well, bad. You know what the real story is? Here's the real story. Blah, 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 blah. And they whisper stuff and they poison your brain when they whisper it. You know what I'm saying, D? But they won't come out and say it. So I believe that if the inspector general did the report, and the inspector general is paid with tax dollars from the good people of the city of Chicago, then the good people of the city of Chicago should see the report. That's what I think. Ooh, just sorry about that. And we can pay for it with all the money we raised, ticketing and booting those cars.
There we go.
Yeah, since 1922. We've been booting cars.
Yes, that's right, Jim on the live stream chat. Mayor Lightboot.
Oh, God.
Good
That's
times.
pretty good, Jim.
We got, what do we call Lori Lakefront and Lightboot. Boy. We're in nothing but trouble, aren't we?
God. I voted for her. I admit I voted for her. Yes, I did.
Yeah. All right. So that is the news. Jeff Johnson coming up in moments, but first we got to read everybody's one word. So Ben will hold off on his statement he wanted to make there. All right. So yes, the question we're asking all of you now that the year 2020 is halfway over. In one word, how do you describe that first half of 2020? If you just tuned in, Ben's one word is the F word.
Which I switched to awful. Okay, just cleaning things up.
Mine is humbled.
I like
Feel
that.
humbled.
That's excellent. Actually, your word, once again, his word's better than mine. I'm writing this down.
All right, so how about we're going to the Facebook
We're going to ask
page.
Jeff Johnson this too. What
All right.
word?
All right. I got a feeling it's going to be the F word. All right. So on to the Facebook page first. At Benny J Show. BENNY, the letter J Show. Feel free to weigh in. Give us a like, follow, share, review, whatever. All right. Andrea's one word. Fast.
Whoa.
It did go by very fast. I feel like we're already in July.
Yeah. Who said that? Andrea?
Andrea.
Andrea, you are so right. It's like, it's like, and then the days, like individual. I'm already going to bed, you know. Like, when it's like, I can't believe I'm already going to bed. And then, cock-a-doodle-doo, I'm up with the roosters at the crack of dawn. You know me, D, getting up early. And it's like, up, a new day beginning. Maybe it would slow down a little bit for me if I got up earlier, D. What do you think? Huh? Should I get up earlier?
Please. All right. On to Shelly. Shelly weighed in on the Facebook page. Shelly's one word to describe the first half of the year 2020. Hurricane.
Yeah, man. Oh, that's a great song by Neil Young. Oh, Michael Girardi, if you're out there, if you ever do a cover, love for you to hear your screaming guitar on Hurricane by Neil Young.
And we have one more on the Facebook page. Feel free to weigh in, everybody, at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show. We had one word, and shoot, I believe I lost it, but the one word, it was half of a word, and I guess they're going to fill out the other half. Arma.
Get it. Who was in the movie Armageddon?
Tom Hanks, I believe.
Was it Schwarzenegger?
No, Bruce Willis.
Nah, Schwarzenegger. What? Frank!
No, I believe Bruce Willis was in Armageddon.
Was he?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay.
All right.
Armageddon. Wow.
Yep, Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck, Liv Tyler, Steven Tyler's daughter was in that.
Walk this way, talk this. Just give me a kiss. I vaguely remember seeing Armageddon, but I don't remember what it was about.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Aerosmith actually had a song on the soundtrack. I've never seen the movie, but all right. Radio Doogie, what's up, Doogie? His one word for the year 2020: canceled.
Yeah, that's the sports season. My beloved Bulls. Actually, they may have done us a favor by canceling the NBA season. But they're bringing it back, by the way, D, in the bubble.
Yeah, I bet that won't happen.
Yeah, I know. That's what we were talking about with Vincent yesterday. I'm not sure that's going to happen.
All right. Jim's one word on the live stream chat: disaster.
Yeah, no, that, yep, disastrous, yes.
His reason why? Trump and his hoax BS.
Oh, my God. Don't get me started. Don't get my wife started. Did you talk to Pam today by any chance? She was ripping Republicans.
Oh, she kept it subtle. She was like, listen, I'm a little upset with Pence and Mitch McConnell, all right? Now I got to go.
Yeah, because there was a picture in the paper of Mike Pence and Mitch McConnell wearing masks. Oh, now they're wearing. Hey, Darren Bailey, did you see that? Your boys from the Republican Party are now wearing masks. Not me. It doesn't, the virus doesn't come to Clay County. Anyway, yeah, she was pissed off. I don't blame her, man. Finally, they're wearing masks. Okay, thanks, guys.
All right, and we'll do one more here. Steven gave us his one word. Steven's word, it's a big one. One that my community college educated brain may not be able to wrap my head around here. He had two of them, but I can only find that first one that you sent us, Stephen. Antediluvian.
Oh, antediluvian. Great word. By the way, the city garbage truck has just pulled up. Our tax dollars at work. God bless you guys. Seriously, those are hardworking people there collecting the garbage. Just thought I'd say that. Yeah, antediluvian. I learned that word from Harold Washington, means before the flood. And Harold Washington had an incredible vocabulary. He'd be using words, and I would be like, oh, God. I'd kind of write down a phonetic spelling and try to figure out what it was and look it up in a dictionary. But antediluvian, before the flood.
Oh, and his second word was portentous.
Oh, whoa, portentous. Whoa. Dang, this guy. Did Harold Washington come back and start writing in one words?
Are you live stream chatting, Mr. Washington? All right, so those are the one words. Feel free to weigh in at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Go check that out. Give us your one word. Find our social media and like us. Also, feel free to, you can call us with the one word if you'd like. 708-658-4788 is the number that you can call to reach us at the Ben Joravsky Show. I mean, we're not going to answer, but leave a voicemail, and that'd be cool. That's our news. That's it. So don't go anywhere. What?
One last thing before we take a break and call Jeff.
Okay.
I feel it's important that I make a clarification and a correction from yesterday's show. Frank weighed in. He sent me a text. Frank, I read the text, and he pointed out yesterday I was on a riff, about Neil Gorsuch, the justice appointed by Donnie Trump to the Supreme Court. And I was like, I don't believe that Neil Gorsuch will ever break from Trump on anything of importance or relevance. And Frank pointed out that occasionally Neil Gorsuch votes with the liberals or the Democrats. And so I looked it up, and there were some cases. Frank, you are absolutely correct.
That's correct.
You're correct on that point. I will stay with my larger point, which is that I do not believe, and I look forward to be proven wrong, but I do not believe that Neil Gorsuch will break with Trump on any matter of significance to Donald John Trump. For instance, the big daddy that's coming up, whether he should, his income tax statements, his income tax reports should be revealed to the public. That was the discussion we were having. Who were we having that discussion with, D? Oh, Monroe. Monroe predicted they would. Monroe predicted that the Supreme Court would rule that Donald Trump's tax returns have to be revealed, have to be publicized, or at least turned over to the state of Illinois. Of course, if the state of the state of New York was run the way the city of Chicago is run with its Inspector General reports, it'd be like, sorry, we're not revealing them. We're not releasing them. See Chicagoans, see Lakefront liberals, see what I'm saying? You want to see Donnie Trump's tax returns, but you don't want to see the Eddie Johnson report, right? Because you like Lori Lightfoot, but you don't like Donald Trump. I'm just saying, okay? It's like when it comes to transparency, it should be everybody, right? Everybody. Anyway, Frank, you were right. Neil Gorsuch has voted with the Democrats from time to time, but we'll see if he's got the guts to defy Donnie Trump.
Frank, we love you. Thanks for keeping us on our toes. All right, that's the news. Oh, live stream chat. Brianna, no. Okay, yes, we are going to be doing a show tomorrow, by the way. A lot of people may be taking the day off, July 3rd. We're not. We're going to be here tomorrow, all right?
And we have bonuses all weekend.
And we have bonuses. We're going to be doing the same old thing that we do. So we will have a show tomorrow. No, Jim, I'm not going to be lighting fireworks in the attic. And Brianna, no, I'm not putting fireworks in the porta potty. So we're going to take a break here, everybody. And when we come back, it's Union Man, pension guru, Jeff Johnson of the IBEW Local 9. Don't go anywhere. And while you wait, how about a little Michael Girardi, huh? We heard a new low. Let's go tax increment financing. It's the Ben Joravsky Show, live from Ben's attic.
Correct.
correct.
Let's begin with phase one.
Yes, that's billion with a B.
Correct. That's correct.
I've seen a whole lot of catfish, some turtles. No gators yet, though.
Madam Secretary, you talk a lot about the mothers of your friends, where you went to their houses and you knew that they were going to be kind and generous and supportive of you. So that theme of women being present and how they make a difference, talk a little bit about that. And
Hey guys, how's it going? We're back. And on the line with us is the one and only Jeff Johnson.
Jeff Johnson, are you there?
Yeah, that's right, baby.
Jeff Johnson, a.k.a. JJ Johnson. I just gave you that nick. Did anybody call you JJ back in the day when you were a kid at Lane Tech?
No, my call signature at work for fire department dispatches, because we use initials. That's the only place the first time when I was 20 years old. When I got hired with the city, they started calling me JJ.
And did you hate it or did you like it?
I didn't care. Yeah, it doesn't bother me. Whatever.
One word.
Call me anything. Just don't call me late for dinner.
Okay. Jeff Johnson will be playing at Zany's next week. All right.
Zany's is closed.
Oh, it's closed. All right, Jeff, I got a whole... Our pension guru, we've been promoting it. You're going to be talking pensions. I got my property tax bill this week, so it's on my mind. In fact, I'm looking at the property tax bill right now. My theory is, Jeff, if I just keep looking at it, it'll pay itself. Hasn't worked yet, but we'll see if that works. I also want to talk to you about booting and ticketing. Just saw on my Sun Times, my beloved bright one, that they're bringing back booting and ticketing. I guess I got to pay the bills somehow or other. I am not pleased with that. Get your thoughts on that. And I also want to ask you about Eddie Johnson Gate. The city's sitting on a report by the Inspector General about Eddie Johnson. This is my thing on Eddie Johnson, and you think about this, I believe that Eddie Johnson has been treated unfairly, and he did not get the credit he deserves for doing a pretty good job on terrible, very trying circumstances. I talk a little national politics with you, Joe Biden and his vice presidential choices. But before we do any of that, I need to know, this is sort of the theme of the day, and without any warning whatsoever, we've been asking our listeners, we're 6 months in, so half the year is over. What's the one word that comes to your mind when you think of the year 2020?
Shit show.
Yeah, man. Mine was the F word, so you and I are
that dumpster fire. There's a lot of other, but yeah. To sum it up, we'll go with the show.
Yeah, the show, as we call it. All right, let's talk a little pensions. Jeff Johnson is the show's pension guru, and it's been a while since he's been on the show. So just general report. Where are we? Everything's shut down. My guess is that the pension liability is far worse than it was before the pandemic. Maybe I'm wrong. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So we had a rough first quarter with all the Chicago funds had a rough first quarter. Just everybody knows the stock market was so very volatile and went and dipped. I think hit a low about March 23rd. Since then, it's kind of rebounded. For the month of May, the MEABF returned 3.5%, and we actually were positive for the month of May. Now, we're still trending negative for the year just because of how volatile it's been and how down it was. But, the plus side, and this is last time I was on, I kind of mentioned this. We had all the pension funds had received their first installment of money from the city. So we were able to pay out the benefits. Muni pays roughly $90 million a month. We were able to pay out the benefits without having to liquidate any money. So we weren't hit by the double whammy of liquidating while we're down. So it actually helped out in that sense. The year's half over with. If I'm a betting man, the second quarter is going to end up positive for the pension funds for the second quarter. Now, is it going to be as bad as March was that ruined the first quarter? I don't know, but it will be a positive quarter for the pension funds. And then from there going forward, there's a lot of just volatility in the market, and there's a lot of worry about what happens if there's a second wave, and then we just kind of have to take it from there and go from there.
All right, let's talk about what you mean by it'll be positive. I think I have an understanding of what you mean by positive, but why don't you explain things, go a little more detail. You mean... positive returns. Like I said, for the month of May, we were up 3.3%. And so, we actually made more money in investments than we paid out in benefits. So always a plus when you pay the bills and you're still positive at the end of the day. And that's what, the pension funds do. We just came out with our actuarial report for last year. And, so they do this and all year, I say the municipal finance geek reporters love it because it's their Bible that they write by. It's on our website. Anybody wants to look at it, they can look at it. So for 2019, we finished up for the year 16.6%. And now let's go back three past years. 2019, we were up 16.6%. 2018, we were down roughly 5.7%, negative 5.7. And then for 2017, we were up 15.1. So you're up 15.1, down 5.7, up 16.6. And so this year, half the year's over with. Who knows where we'll end up. But our actuarial report, we ended up at the end of 2019 still up money. We paid all our bills, and we were up positive for the year. And so that's why I talk about positive returns. You don't want to try and beat how much money you're paying out, but obviously you want to. But our assumed rate of return is 7%, and last year we beat it by roughly 9.1%. Jeff, and I know we have some geeky listeners, myself included, if they want to read that actual report that you alluded to, how could they find it, did you say?
www.meabf.org. It's on our. It's the very top link on our website. It's the 2019 actuarial report, and I will say that there's some cool stats on there. It tells you how many Tier 1 members we have, Tier 2, Tier 3, how many men, female. Our muni, the MEABF fund, is got roughly 57% female of all. And like our pension fund includes everybody from the mayor to water department, electrical departments, crossing guards, aldermen. And, it's majority female, it's majority African-American fund. Our average pension on there, it'll show you, is roughly $36,000 a year. And, there's a lot of cool stats you have to dig through in these actuarial reports to find.
And I will now, at this point, give my typical spiel that I give every time you're on the show, and I give it all the time anyway. This is a direct investment in people who live in the city of Chicago. I have argued, and Jeff heard me argue this many times, that this is perhaps one of the most beneficial investments that the city makes. I go back to the 70s when Richard J. Daley ruled that city workers had to live in Chicago. I feel that was a very stabilizing factor. The Fraternal Order of Police is talking about changing that so that police officers don't have to live in Chicago anymore. I hope that Mayor doesn't agree to that, because I do believe that there's benefits to having city workers live in Chicago. And when we have the pensions that come back, that's direct investment. Now, I know some people go, but Ben, I get this all the time. Ben, I know a guy who was a police officer for 30 years. Now he lives in Florida. Okay, I admit there are some pensioners who don't live in Chicago. But my guess is, Jeff, that most of them still live in the city of Chicago, which means that's a direct investment into the neighborhoods.
Oh, God, yes, exactly. And from the muni, our MEABF, our stats are roughly 85% of retirees, because all actives live in the city. 85% of all retirees still live in the 606. Police and fire might be a little lower because they're more higher end pensions, so they can afford to be kind of like to relocate. But all in all, and Bob Bruno from U of I did that study that I still hold as the Bible. For every dollar paid to a city worker, and even in pensions, every dollar paid to somebody that lives in the city, 87 cents of it stays in the city and churns at the gas station, at the stores, at the restaurants and stuff like that. And like you said, it is a direct investment in the city of Chicago to pay, these pensions and to reap the benefits of all the money that churns in the city of Chicago.
Jeff, do you get feedback from city employees who want the city to relax the residency rule, or is it just
well, as with anything in life, I have 2 kids, and if I told them not to breathe air, it's like, or to keep breathing air, and they're just going to be against it just because, right? You can't tell me what to do, and a lot of it is that it's just they don't like the restrictions. There's this fear that if you listed the residency requirements, the 60631, which is O'Hare, and 60655, which is down in Mount Greenwood, there's a fear that these neighborhoods would have for sale signs on every property. Mm-hmm. And the truth of it is, most people can't really afford to do that. They got kids in school, they got mortgages. There's a lot of other factors there that just don't point to the fact that if they listed residency, there'd be a mass run on the door. And so, I mean, to me, it's a tricky question, to be quite honest with you, with the active city workers, because like I said, it's just because they're telling me to do it, I don't want to do it. And the truth of it is, most city workers would still reside in the city of Chicago.
And like I said, this way before your time, when Richard J. Daley implemented the rule back in the 70s. And then I can't remember when they made school teachers. I think it was in the 80s. Don't quote me on this, Jeff.
It was later. Yeah, it was later. Yeah.
And then it always irritated me because the charter school teachers didn't have the same residency rules. So it was like, now you mentioned 2 tiers. Explain to people, there's actually 3 tiers, I think. Three tiers now, yeah. Explain to our listeners what the 3 tiers are.
In 2010, Governor Quinn said that they were going to fix pensions. And, this was their first attempt, quote unquote, to fix pensions. I should actually say second, because they attempted to change the benefits. But so what they did was they created a tier 2. Instead of retiring, at 55 with a full pension, now you had to work till you're 67. And there was a cap on how much money, how much your pension could be. There was a cap on your cost of living, raises, and retirement. So this was the first attempt at fixing quote unquote pensions. And then in roughly late 2016, early 2017, the city did a tier 3 because there's some concern that possibly tier 2 violates the Safe Harbor Act, where you can't have a retirement benefit that is less than Social Security, and tier 2 is completely less than Social Security. So there was an attempt to fix tier 2 by tier 3 now. And I tell people all the time, we just have to get through tier 1 and kind of ride that out, because the tier 2s, and it's the theory that these kids know when they take the job that this is the benefit they have. If you don't want the job, if you don't want to work till you're 67, 65, well, then don't take it. And so when everybody talks about how the generous pensions, well, there might have been nicer benefits prior, but now it's evened out with these tier 2 kids. And the muni fund right now between tier 2 and tier 3 is roughly 45, 48% tier 2, tier 3 in the last 9 years. So we're right on that teeter point between the tier 1s and everybody else.
So just so I understand this correctly, are you telling me that the tier 3 employees have a more generous pension plan than the tier 2?
Well, let's see. Let's classify it as, take off your socks and shoes, and we'll do the math on this. Tier 2s pay 8.5% and we can get a full pension at 67 years old. If you were a tier 2, you had the option for 1 year to sign a piece of paper to say, I want to become a tier 3. Now, what does becoming a tier 3 mean? Becoming a tier 3 means that you could pay more, up to 11.5%. So you go from paying 8.5% to 11.5%, and you can retire at 65. So for an extra 3% for roughly 40 years of your career gives you 2 years extra in retirement.
Mm-hmm. And so an employee who pays more, obviously, into his pension, the city doesn't have to pay as much. So the city is, quote unquote, saving money.
There you go.
And, so that's the advantage.
And they call it the normal cost. And there's a normal cost calculation where how much is your pension going to be worth, right? These actuaries do these numbers where, you're going to live to your males 79.2, females, I think it's like 80.3 or whatever. And, your pension is going to be X amount. So the normal cost of your pension would be roughly, like tier 3 are paying roughly 93% of their entire pension themselves out of their paycheck. And that's where the savings kicks in.
So now when you say you can retire at 65, you mean you could retire and get your top pension benefits, correct?
Well, it depends upon when you start. You still need to do basically 35 years. It's not like you can get hired at 55 and retire at 65 with a top pension. Right. No, it's still like a multiplier. You still get, for every year of service, you get 2.4 credit. And after 33 and a third years, you hit 80, but you have to work till you're 65 years old to get that. So you have to do over 33 years and be 65 years old.
I see. And then you get 80% of your...
then you get 80%, yeah.
So if you're making $100,000, you get $80,000 a year, basically.
You get $80,000 at 65 years old, yeah.
Yeah. So, listen, I'm a big supporter of pensions. Wish I had one. I'm one of those. I got pension envy when I look at, but I don't take it to the next step and want to take away from the person I'm envious of. Do you follow what I'm saying? So I just
we just they hired 4 new kids over at 911, and I talked to them about just unions, pensions, and stuff like that. And I tell them 20 years ago when I first got hired with the city of Chicago, there was a wow. It's cool that you got a city job. Good for you. Nowadays, that mentality's changed. Nowadays, it's like, oh, you got a pension? Well, I don't have one. Why do you get one?
Yeah.
And you've seen that change in mentality in the public.
Well, I would like, and I know this is not on the top of any list of priorities of any of the presidential candidates that I followed over the last year. I would like to see us entertain this notion of retirement. And as I always tell our listeners, Jeff, you're going to get old. And it's a reality. I know a lot of my younger listeners don't believe it. You know, they get young forever, but you're going to get old, and your worldview will change when you get old, and you can start worrying about, like, how am I going to pay the bills when I can't work anymore? And I feel as though our country as a whole has just ignored this issue, belittled and made a mockery of it, and we don't have a very realistic, in my opinion, attitude about how people will live. And this is so obvious with the pandemic, Jeff. You got so many people locked in nursing homes, and
my close friends and the people that I constantly debate on these issues, I always refer to the pendulum effect. And so, after World War II, the middle class kind of sprouted from that. And out of that, unions and, started to organize, and there was a growth in membership from unions, dignity in retirement, Social Security, benefits started getting a little better. Pensions were really kind of coming out of that. And so in a perfect world, I think that pendulum starts to come back a little bit, and we start to really focus, like you said, on dignity in retirement. And people really start to think about, like, wait a minute, we should have pensions. And, employers pushing 100% of retirement off onto their employees and saying, like, invest in a 401k. If you look at the volatility recently, and I tell some of our members, because June 30th is a big retirement date for our pension fund, because it's when, you get your credits for the first 6 months, and so you can retire June 30th. And what we saw was, and this is an interesting debate fact, because I kept asking about what the hell's going on with these numbers. There were a bunch of people that were slated to retire June 30th that didn't retire. Said, you know what, screw it. And part of the reason, after poking around with some people, was that their 401k took a massive hit for the first half of the year. And they couldn't, I'll say it, not afford to retire. Some of them needed their 401k to pay the mortgage, pay everything. But it's just they were worried about the 401k coming back. And so I would tell some of the members, you are in a golden spot right now. Because if you don't need your 401k to retire, if you can afford to live on your pension, whatever your salary was, our average salary is like $55,000 in the muni fund. If you can retire and live on your pension, you can wait for your deferred comp to come back. And if you aren't smart enough to put it in fixed income or put it in something defensive prior, wait till it comes back and then put it into defensive. Imagine having to rely solely on a 401k, and you had a June 30th date of retirement, and a couple of days ago, you had to put your head down and go back in your boss's office and say, I'm sorry, I was going to retire, and I told everybody I was, but I can't afford to retire because my 401k is worth a half of what it was 3 months ago. And that is something that, those lessons you learn out of this. And that's where it's like 401ks, they're good as a supplemental aspect, but you can't afford to use those solely for retirement.
Absolutely. And I think that's a lesson that people learn. It really, you don't start thinking about that, Jeff Johnson, until you're about 50. It's like,
yeah.
Nobody told me about this. I'm tired. I'm more tired than I used to be. All right, enough of this depressing talk about pensions. Let's move on to even more depressing topic, booting and ticketing. The city of Chicago is I just was ranting and railing about this one. Jeff Johnson, get your thoughts about this. It's all right. Enough, Mr. Nice Guy from the city of Chicago. They're bringing back booting and ticketing. They suspended it from during the first part of the pandemic, which is interesting. I guess we're at phase 4, so back to booting and ticketing. And, what happens when we go back to phase 3 or 2? Exactly. Your thoughts about booting and ticketing?
At some point the bill comes due, right? And I heard a lot of people moan and complain and gruff over this when they first gave this amnesty basically in the first place. Because remember, if you go back to the ticketing aspect, we're only going to ticket in cases of emergency. And what was it? LAZ, the meter company, was sitting over in the corner, raised their hand and kind of said, you can do what you want. We're doing what we want. And Laz kept ticketing people because in their contract, that parking meter deal that you talk about so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. They get to have their own ticket agencies. They're not city employees; they're private employees that are out there. And so the city's like, "Hey, we're not going to ticket you." Laos is like, "Well, we are, but okay, cool. You do what you want." And honestly, no, I mean, I was torn on that. Just because there's a pandemic going on, you still have some people working. And it's like, normally I had to pay a meter, but screw it. I'm not paying anything right now. There's still some type of, adherence to law, even, in things like, don't get 8 parking tickets and get a goddamn boot on your car. It's just, there's some kind of middle road there. And I get your point on what you were talking about, but I'm a little more towards like, we kind of got to, and I say this from how should I say, pension trustee standpoint, we need some revenue to come into the city. And I get you're picking on some of the lesser fortunate to raise that revenue.
Yeah.
But there's really no perfect answer in my mind.
Well, unless you went to a more progressive form of taxation, that's my answer, and which, of course, everybody's running away from.
True.
That's my general point. We get to when you're squeezing the rock to get as much as you can from some. I think I forget how many tickets it's before the boot comes in. Is it 3? I want to say it's 3, but it's been a while. One of our listeners.
I want to say it's 3. I want to say it's 3.
I want to say it's 3. All right. You said something, and this goes diving into the weeds. So there's an assumption that the people, I know this is a common assumption, that the ticket writers that go around are employees of the city. But what you're saying is it's actually not true. The meters are controlled and owned by the consortium, and they have their own employees who.
Yes, I don't know the total makeup through the comptroller's office because the Department of Finance runs that. Mm-hmm. But the city of Chicago has some ticket writers, but so does LAZ and the consortium. And the easiest way is I think our city workers have the orange vests on with the blue shirts, and the private sector LAZ are the ones that wear kind of like that lime green. And, they sit in the laws with their white trucks with the LAZ kind of in like brown letters or something. But yeah, there are 2 different segments of ticket enforcement, and they're not all city employees.
And my presumption is that the city employees have better benefits than the private employees. That's my assumption. Am I correct?
Well, at the very basis of it, they get a pension. I mean, and I think they are SEIU, or I know somebody's probably listening to quote me on this one. AFSCME or SEIU?
Which one? The city or the LAZ? The
city. Yeah, city.
Yeah.
Laz. I don't know what. I know very little about that. I mean, give me a couple hours and get to the entire answer.
Yeah.
But I don't know too much about the private sector aspect of it because, the private sector.
So when they ticket you and you pay your ticket, who gets the money? The city?
Ooh, that's a very good question that I don't know either. I will look into that. Because breaking it down, because we always hear about the meter company gets the money when they shut it down for like a street fest and stuff like that. So with their ticket enforcement, do they get the revenue as well, or does it go to the city kind of on a back party way to do that? Yeah, I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I used to know. It was cramming for a test. There was a moment in my life, Jeff, back in 2010 or so, where I knew everything about the parking meter deal. It's been 10 years. I forget. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I've just completely forgotten. But you're absolutely correct. That was the last point you made, where if the city shuts down a street before a festival and they can't collect their meters, they get compensated. It's a terrible deal. We got totally screwed. Don't get me fired up on that one. All right. Now let's pretend you're in charge of the world of internal reports. And I talked about this all day. I was ranting and railing. Eddie Johnson, I think he got a bum deal. The former police chief here in the city of Chicago. He was forced out. And now there's a report. It turns out the inspector general had a report, and the city won't release it. I believe the city should release it. What's your thoughts about the report and Eddie Johnson?
I agree with you. He had some very turbulent times, and it's like taking over a ship in the middle of it sinking. And hey, you're in charge now. What do you want to do? So I do have kind of just my unprofessional kind of like, well, there's all this pressure on police officers, reports made public, keep them for 20 years or indefinite after the Supreme Court just ruled on something, about how they keeping complaints and files against them.
Mm-hmm.
And with this one, it's kind of like, well, we want to give it, but we're not going to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I will say, though, that Eddie Johnson had a soft spot in my heart because he came from the ranks. He was a city worker for 29 years. He did the job from PO in the academy and rose through the ranks, however you want to call it, right? But he is a career city of Chicago employee.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, there's a soft spot there versus some others that have kind of just come through and then throw the uniform on and, never done the job a day in their life.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think that honestly, it's a tough political football because there's a lot of people that are in this entire web, and I think that's what you gotta like see like, okay, from a political standpoint, where's this report going to go, and how who else does it hurt?
You just hit it on the head, Jeff Johnson. Who is it gonna hurt? Yeah, that. I hadn't thought about that. Rules for thee, not for me. Inconsistency that you pointed out. The movement to have police report for ordinary police officers complaints be public for 20 years or what have you. But
20 or 25.
This report they're burying because the legalese they're hiding behind it. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, that's a classic rules for the not for me. One more reason why I think the report should be released. My guess is, and this is just me speculating and guessing, is that if that report showed the powers that be in this city exactly what they wanted the public to see, they would release it. My guess is the report doesn't support. That's just my guess on things, Jeff Johnson.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've been around this city a long time. All right, before we let you go, get your thoughts, your prediction. I think by the time you come on the show next, Joe Biden will have selected a vice presidential candidate.
Really? To this point, I think he's going to wait until the goddamn election and trot the person out there the day of. Hey, here's my girl. Yeah.
It's funny you should say that. Joe Biden, I was making fun of him a lot about a month or so ago because he's hiding out in his basement.
Yeah.
And now it turns out that he was smart and I was dumb. Because he just keeps getting higher in the polls by doing nothing, by saying nothing. And you know what I'm saying, Jeff Johnson? And
what's the Machiavellian tactic of just lay back and let the other side fuck up?
Yes, that's exactly correct. That's how he said it in The Prince. Yeah, that's absolutely. You're allowed to swear. It's a podcast, but. But that's pretty funny. So he's not going to announce until the day before the election. I choose Kamala.
Day before the election, here's Kamala.
Yeah.
Come on out. And then honestly, he's still playing footsies with everybody. And I don't know. Honestly, it's starting to get old in my mind already. It's a talking point for a while. The news, they beat this. I can only read so many stories on the 5 possible candidates that he's going to pick. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he's going to hold off for well, are you an associate or a friend with Tammy Duckworth in any way? Did your paths ever cross?
Yes. Yeah, my paths have crossed with her. She's actually very personable. She is funny, quick with a punchline. Biden does not pick her, I don't think.
No, I don't think he's going to pick her either, but He's certainly allowing her name, to your point, to be dropped a lot. So there's some benefit.
Still, coming out there. Yeah. I know a lot of people are pushing for Stacey Abrams.
I was pushing for Stacey. She's not going to get it.
Yeah, I don't know. She's not going to get it. No.
I think it's going to be Kamala Harris. All right.
I think so too. And then her former career choices are going to come back to bite them right in the arse.
And this is why we've had this conversation with other guests who are very critical of her, and I listen to that, and now I'm starting to think that nobody cares about the Democrat. It's all about Donald Trump. That's what this election is. And so he could select Jeff Johnson as his running mate. And, and it won't matter in the coming election. There's
interesting. I see that.
You know, it's all about Trump. All right, Jeff, we got to go. Stay safe, stay sound. Do not mess around with firecrackers, okay? Just stay away from them, all right?
Of course, baby.
All right, very good. The great Jeff Johnson, thank you very much. A regular every month on the Ben Joravsky Show. D, before we head out the door, you got any updates?
Absolutely, we do. I feel like Jeff Johnson's a firework guy. I don't know.
I got the feeling that back in the day he would set him off. But, you know, we get old. You know, no more anybody. I can't stand those firecrackers.
All right, everybody. We have more of your one words to describe the first half of the year 2020. Turns out I'm the only one who went glass half full.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Everybody is empty. Jeff Johnson, what was his shit show?
Shit show.
Yeah, that was good.
And someone else put that as well. But let's read these before we head out of here. We want to remind everybody that to follow us on social media at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on Facebook and Twitter. You can send us an email as well, bennyjshow@gmail.com. I'm getting a lot better at forwarding the messages to Ben so we can read them. We read Steven's email yesterday. Isn't that right?
Yes, we did. It was a good one.
Steven, send him another one. We'll read it again. All right, so let's go to your one words here to describe the first half of this horrible year. We read, I believe we read Shelley's last. So how about Paul? Paul, well, he was going to put his one word, but then he said, yeah, I can't without being banned from Facebook.
It takes a lot to get banned from Facebook, okay?
I don't know. Lately, it really hasn't been.
Facebook?
Yeah. Oh, Zuckerberg's putting the clamp down lately. And our good friend from the Curls, one Mick Fansler, gave us his one word.
Which is?
The F word.
Okay, Mick and I see eye to eye.
Yeah, that was his. Let's see here. Catherine. What's up, Catherine? Catherine on the Facebook page gave us her one word. Sick.
Yeah, man.
That's a very apropos.
Sick.
All right. Let's see here. John. John gave us his one word to describe the first half of the year 2020. His one word, ostrich. Americans have had their head all the way down in the sand.
That is excellent. That is so freaking true.
We did post this on the Twitter page as well, at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show. I don't know if we keep this, if we keep getting more responses, maybe we'll read them tomorrow. Kelly asks, is shit show one word? Sure.
Yes, it is.
Hey, how about Homie the Clown? Oh, wow, that's a throwback. At Homie the Clown, poop ship. Sure. Homie the Clown? Homie, don't play that. All right.
That's one word, poop shit. That's hard to say, by the way.
Morgan's one word, radical.
Oh, radical. I have to think about that.
All right. How about peace, love, and hockey? Well, I love Twitter. Peace, love, and hockey. Shit. That's all they put. How about Angie? Shitty.
A recurring theme.
By the way, thanks, Kim Fox, for just opening the gates on this, the shit gates. Really appreciate that.
It's a shit storm.
Let's see here. How about dictated but not read? Dictated but not read. Weighed in. He says, whatever word this means, and it's a emoji of a guy with curse words band over his mouth. So whatever that word means. Pick a word, I guess. Let me refresh the Twitter page. Looks like we may have gotten a few more. Okay. No, we did not. All right. Back over to the Facebook here. Andrea said fast. We read that. Oh, Dan. Dan gave us his a very lengthy answer, but we'll read it anyway. Dan says, on a scale with 100 being the best, 0 the worst, I assign the first half of the year word 20. I'm guessing the next half of the year will be just as sucky. So I give that a 20 as well.
You know, he's a better grader than I am. Remember, I give -3?
Yeah.
So 20 is not bad. I'd say 20 is, well, it's not a passing grade. Well, if we're grading on a curve, it's a passing grade.
So there you are. Feel free to weigh in with your one word and why, and we will maybe read those tomorrow. Thanks to the live stream chat. You guys are awesome, as always. We couldn't do the show without you. I mean, we could, but it would be kind of boring. So thanks a lot. We really appreciate you guys for joining us on the live stream chat. And that's it. We're done.
We are done. I want to thank Jeff Johnson for being such a great guest. And, of course, I want to thank the man, the myth, the legend, the pride of Joy, Walton, Illinois, without whom this show would be possible. And as everybody knows, including Jeff Johnson, back home in Alton, they call him Studley.
Oh, how did you know?
I just... Hey, that's...
Finally, a word they actually called me back home.
Studley. I don't know where that came from. Anyway, give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everyone.